Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, it is your favorite dark sorcerer. Tonight, as promised, I'm going to go into a lot of different topics, including that of questions that have been brought up to me about what Satanism is, how it's done, how to curse someone. There's a lot of things that have been coming up as of late, not only by new students, but also some people that have been around and followers of mine since 2013 when I first came on to YouTube and Facebook. Now, one of the biggest things that keep coming up is how many methods are there to practice any type of satanic or demonic sorcery? And what is the difference between all the paths? Okay. For an example, a student of mine that I recently took underneath my wing and started feeding him the books by various different authors and sharing links and stuff with him to how should I say this? To help him along his journey into Luciferianism. Okay. And today he actually asked some very good questions. One of which is he started delving into the traditional, or I wouldn't say the traditional Luciferianism, but he's been digging into a lot of different paths that deal with the same things that he's been coming up against within, say, for example, Michael W. Ford's work. Okay, we all know Michael W. Ford. He's a Luciferian, a Satanist, and he's a black magician, one of the greats that is very well publicized, both in book and YouTube videos. Those of you who do not know him or have never heard of him or just know him by name but don't know books and stuff that where to begin, I would recommend the Adversarial Bible, okay, by him. Namely because of the fact that he literally breaks things down in this book through the rules, the laws, how to become a Luciferian. But more importantly, he lays down a philosophy that allows you as the acolyte, the neophyte, to begin to understand where the path leads, but also in a simplistic view of different topics being utilized as masks, okay, to summon, say, Satan, Lucifer, or any of the 72 demonic spirits from the lesser keys of Solomon, known as the Goetia, okay? But more importantly, he kind of shows you how to begin your journey, where to begin, how to become a Luciferian, and how to view each challenge or each obstacle in your life as being just another mask. If you think of Luciferianism as a physical attribute, it truly is. I mean, it truly is a physical attribute to a way of life, especially from Michael W. Ford's point of view. Now, if you get into witchcraft, such as the Luciferian witchcraft, Michael W. Ford's book on witchcraft is very good. He works a lot with the Hecate, the Greek goddess of the underworld, Hecate, point of view, and a lot of his rights are from this book. But when you think of these spiritual beings as being very spiritual, I can think of no better role model for you to look up and get into as that of Frank White. He is the founder of the Serpent of the Grails group right here on YouTube, but he also has a page and a group on Facebook. Very, very good book. It's all about the sorceries. It's all about the magics, and he keeps it down low. He keeps it literally about the arts, the knowledge, the understanding, and the wisdom, whereas most groups that I've come across on Facebook have been nothing more than a bunch of drama queens. And when you call them out on their shit, they end up getting, butt hurt and basically gang banged. Now, I talked a little bit about this in part 2, but Frank is one of those kind of practitioners, those type of sorcerers, that he's not going to beat around the bush. He's one of those Luciferian practitioners of witchcraft and demonic sorceries that literally tell it to you straight, much like I do in a lot of ways. Unlike Frank, I'll give you the references and the author's name so that you can go out and look for it yourself. That's the only difference between Frank and myself. Now, another Luciferian that does a lot of spiritual and conjuration work is Behemoth X, also known as Joseph Nunn. Joseph Nunn, I've been a follower of his for a little while now, and I really love what he's doing, the work that he's doing. Not only is he working with Azazel and some other beings such as Lucifer, the bearer of light, but he's also keeping it real and kind of doing it in real time, talking about what he felt, how he felt about doing it, the results of what he was expecting, but he also breaks it down into realism, and I really like that about him. He's very, very good as a Luciferian, and I'm honored to be friends with him. Now, the traditions, however, that talk a lot about different aspects, but have a lot of things in common, especially from a satanic point of view. One of which is this type of question, and this is from a student of mine that lives down in Mexico. He sent me a message while I was at work today, and he said that, what are your thoughts on other topics, other paths of Satanism and sorceries? Because it seems like a lot of these paths have commonalities. There's a lot of them that deal with unique and specific things that everyone else is doing. And I told him, I said, if you look at the different denominations of Satanism, you will see a lot of commonalities, especially from an invocation or an evocation point of view. A lot of the paths today utilize the 72 demons of the Goetia. Not many paths go beyond that into other hierarchies, such as Dante's Inferno. The Munich manuscripts, or the going into, say, the path workings with the 7 Olympic spirits, which are actually fallen angels. Dealing with the 7 crown princes of the air out of the 6th and 7th books of Moses. There's a lot of different paths out there, a lot of different workings. The Black Raven has a lot of unique names, a lot of Interesting names. The Grimoire of Armadale is another one that has a unique system of demonic names, such as Helgith, Auk, and a few others. I mean, there's so many different paths out there that have so many different viewpoints, but the commonalities are thus: the meanings of these beings are similar. For an example, when we talk about the Black Flame being Emma Iman, as in a teacher, E.A. Koetting speaks highly of Emma Iman. Okay, Emma Iman is a god. He is the twin flame to Lucifer, the bearer of light. But he's also a teacher of occultism, of demonic sorceries, and can teach you literally a lot of different things. But if we go into other sources, such as, say, for an example, I don't know, let's go with the Grimoire of Armadale. We see where Zaniel is the teacher of witchcraft. Okay. Hecate is the goddess of witchcraft in Greek mythology. Within paganism, she teaches witchcraft, much like Isis in Egyptian, or that of Freyja, Frey, and Norse mythology. Okay, so you got a lot of things that you can learn from it, a lot of different structures, be it gods, demigods, um, angels, demons, even the jinn. Belial, or Belial as he's known today, his history goes back hundreds, if not thousands of years. There have been rumors that he's not only a demon, but he's an angel. Okay, but there's also rumors that he's actually a part of the infernal Djinn. Okay, the living smokeless fire. Okay, Turksuzij in the demonic Bible compares him to a Djinn. He's known as he who has no master. Whereas in angelology, he is third behind Satan and Lucifer. In demonolatry, he is one of the 72 goetic demons. So you see where different paths and different orders have different viewpoints of gods. Okay. But we can also get into the actual workings as well. Some workings require an invocation, whereas another is an evocation. Sometimes it's a matter of utilizing a sigil or perhaps some form of writing, such as Enochian or Hellgate. You can go into, for an example, chiromancy, such as scrying to summon a being, such as what you see behind me right here. Okay? Skulls are association with spiritual realm or the nexus, the gateway between the realms. Okay? You'll notice that I have a gargoyle currently on my altar. A gargoyle is a symbolization of protection. They protect things like churches. They protect things like um, old buildings throughout Europe. Okay? It is believed that evil beings cannot set foot on a premises that is guarded by a gargoyle. Okay? But mythology also teaches that gargoyles can also be bloodthirsty creatures, much in the same way as a lycanthrope, a werewolf. All right? Now, on the other hand, I have a divination bowl, a scrying bowl, a black bowl filled with liquid to which I can summon a being to speak with, to work with. A crystal ball, be it one of these, or I did not sit there right. or one of these. Okay. Now, you'll notice that different balls, crystal balls, have different things. Now, Espen Cayenne recently posted on Facebook on what, the history of a crystal ball. Okay. Now, what's interesting is what a sorcerer can do with just this, a black magician. Okay. I had a friend, I have a friend of mine that I'm friends with right here on, not here on YouTube, but on Facebook. I met this guy at a Christian church, and this guy is an alcoholic. Although he has cleaned up his life since he's met me, he really was kind of lazy in some aspects, but he was very, very curious about occultism. He was very, very curious about his past, what his journey is, and what how should I say this? What he can be, because he's always been interested in magic. He's always been interested in and felt a pull towards the left hand path, towards spiritualism, but he didn't know exactly what the details were. Okay, so one day, let me put this up here. So one day, I went to his house, and I should say his apartment, and he grabbed a candle, and he grabbed one of these little paperweights that were like a glass, kind of like a sculpted glass type thing. And it's really not a quartz crystal. It was more of just a glass thing. It was a glass paperweight type item. And I had him turn off the lights, and I started gazing into the crystal, into this glass item. And I started utilizing it as a crystal ball. And I pulled up his history, his grandmother, talked a little bit about the path that she was on and where he hails from, things from what he was introduced to as a child and such. And what was interesting about this is not only did it frighten him, but it also caught his interest because of the fact that he could not believe that I just utilized his paperweight to commune with his grandmother, his great great grandmother to be precise, but also to bring things up from his own past, things that he has never spoken of to anyone outside of family. So you see, items such as ritual items, such as a quartz crystal or a crystal ball, a candle, even such as what's burning behind me, can be utilized in spiritual conjurations. Okay, incense such as sandalwood, which is burning right now, and the phallus, I have dragon's blood going, charcoal being burned. Okay, this is a blessing and an offering to those I work with. As you can see, I have some statues up on a stand behind me. You have Moloch, Dagon, and Azazel. Okay, but these are just a couple of the beings that I've worked with over the years. So when you get into a pantheon, some of them are newer than others. Okay, Moloch has a unique Babylonian history. A lot of people used to make human sacrifices to him. This is why he was known as the collector of burned souls. Okay. But it wasn't until the Hebraic systems came into the region that a few hundred years after this, he became known as the collector of burned souls, as in the actual burned souls. Human sacrifices were made to him at the foot of Mount Hinnom. Dagon is a Chaldean deitas, a dragon, half serpent, half and quarter man. You know, you can look at his image. You can even bring him up on Google. You'll see what I mean. Now, what's interesting to note is that when the Canaanite god Baal came about, Baal is the son of Dagon. Most people don't realize that because they don't dig into the history. They don't dig into the mythology of the regions. Okay? So you really have to get into the mythologies, the histories, and dig into their long, fruitful lifestyles. Now, what's interesting to note is that I'm not the only one who has discussed this. S. Connolly Reeser, in her book, The Complete Book of Demonolatry, or Demonolatry, whichever book you want to get, there's two of them. One's demonolatry, as in the Greek definition, and the other one is just demonolatry. Okay? Has many different hierarchies, including some that I've already mentioned here. But a lot of these have been corrupted, and a lot of these beings have literally been put into the Judeo Bible, the Catholic Roman Missal, the Quran, and such. But these beings go back so much further than that. Today, Satan is known as the Dark God. But what if I told you that back during Zoroastrianism, that Orion was called the Dark God? It would blow your mind, especially if you don't take my word for it and you go out and do your own research. Zoroastrianism was around long before Christianity. So again, Satanism has nothing to do with Christianity. But the question here that was brought up to me was, why do so many paths have so many things in common? This is why. Because a lot of these paths, such as the gods, the demigods, and gods of paganism, Wiccan, and Wicca, come from the same sources. A lot of the traditions of Satanism are derived from the same sources, specifically the Goetia, the clavicle of Solomon, the king. Now, when we get into other aspects, such as, say, for an example, the Temple of Set, or individual temples, which, churches, which ones to get into, which one to apply for. Okay. This was another question that was brought up to me while I was at work today. And I had some downtime between customers, so I replied to them. Now, the question was, what do I think of the Temple of Set? And I told them, I said, they get a good reputation. They keep it, they keep their works added down low, the DL. They literally don't really go out causing issues and drama. Not much is known about their works. And the reason for that is because when Aquino left the COS, the Church of Satan, back in 1974, and started his own order, the Temple of Set, based off the Egyptian devil, Set or Seth, as he's called, it was based off that. And it's evolved in its own way. And he came back and he says, yeah, true, but I mean, I know all this. This is just, topic stuff. It's scratching the surface. It's like a preliminary search. But I want to know, what is it about them that makes them special, unique? So I told him, I said, number one, their works are unique in their own way, just like that of, say, the Brotherhood of Satan, the Satanic Brotherhood, or even that of traditional Satanism, such as the Cathedral of the Black Goat. Okay? There's so many different Bibles out there within Satanism today. One of the more radical Satanic Bibles is that of Reverend Cesar 999. Now, I recently came across his Facebook group page, and I had to laugh at it because it's only him posting. No one else is even chiming in or sharing opinions. So it basically tells me that just like his book, The Satanic Bible 999, Reverend Cesar 999 is the only one doing anything within this particular vampire order. Now, a lot of the works within his Bible is nothing more than bitching people out. You know, basically putting people down, other groups, other satanic orders, and everything. Basically the whole "we're right, you're wrong" type thing. We're the only way. Much like a Christian mandate. Of on one hand, you can't. He's the only way, but on the other hand, you can't do it by yourself. Well, that's slavery. That's putting you into the mercy of somebody else. Satanism is not about placing yourself at the mercy of someone else. It is about self growth. It is about maturing within the arts, the practices, and going with what speaks to you as an individual. But it's also where you want to take it. For an example, if you start out in, say, for an example, the vampiric lifestyle, or let's say, for example, the Gothic lifestyle, like I got into Gothcraft. And one of the best authors out there is Raven Digitalis. He's got numerous books out there, but he's also a serious pagan practitioner. Okay, I've got nothing but respect for this guy. Okay, I've talked to him numerous times. I've had a lot of conversations with him. Hell, I even own a few of his books. And I love the way he writes because he keeps it at its simplistic nature. He puts it out there and just says, this is the way it is. Not every one way is the right way. Some people like to paint their faces. Others like to create their own clothing line. Others like to, their own fashion. Others like to have weird things with their hair, different hair colors. Some like to wear fangs, as in a gothic vampiric thing, like something out of Interview with a Vampire. Perhaps one of those Johnny Depp movies. The ones I'm talking about. That one where he played the pirate. Pirates of the Caribbean. There we go. That stupid type show. That stupid type look. Especially the one where he played a vampire. There's as an actor he's okay, but I'm really not big on those type of movies. But you see, it's that way of thinking, and it's that allows you to express who you are as an individual. That's why I liked Gothcraft so much. But eventually, you got to evolve into something else, into something more. Especially when you realize that there's a whole nother world out there. And So when you go from, say, for example, Gothcraft into vampiric nature, the best author out there would be Father Sebastian. Okay, he is the godfather of the New York covens. Hell of a guy. You know, his book, The Vampire Sanguine, is full of gnosis. Michelle Ballinger, you probably heard of her and her works. You know, the Dictionary of Demons, Names of the Damned, you know, is very good, full of knowledge. But she also wrote a book called Psychic Vampire, Vampires. And when you get both of those put together, it kind of spells something out for you. But at the same time, you want to also look into the Vampire Bible, from the Vampire Church. Not the one with Reverend Cesar 999. No, not that one. I'm talking about the actual registered Vampire Church. Very, very good works. I got my hands on that book, and I could tell you, well, at least in PDF format, I should say. I would love to have it in hardcover or, how should I say this, paperback even, to own physically. I got it in PDF off a occult book site, that you can download. It's like a page off store. Very, very good book. The works within it, put forth a philosophy. It puts forth a way of thought, a way to carry yourself, and it kind of reminded me of Johnson's book, The Satanic Warlock. You know, when you get to the chapter of creating a character for yourself and going with it. If you're on Facebook, you see a lot of these today's occultists, and they're saying, calling themselves Magister Asmodeus or Belphegor, something or other. It's like, if you can't, you know, go with who you are, what's the point? You cannot be these gods, these devils, these angels, these the jinn. You can respect them, you can worship them, you can even go as far as build relationships with them. But you can't be them, so why do you name yourself after them? A Satanist would not do that. A Satanist would allow their creator to give them a name that only the coven in the underworld would know. But at the same time, when you get into a serious mind frame, you're going to find out that there are 5 different levels of thought forms of what the reality is. They can be broken down into 3 different main rules. You're going to, and I spoke on this in the first part 1 of this series. And in part 2, I also discussed 3 main aspects, from the dedication process to the thought forms of getting into the aspects of studying, becoming serious about the path working, and deciding on which section of Satanism that you as the individual are interested in, be it traditional Satanism, theistic Satanism, spiritual Satanism, agnostic Satanism, or even becoming a demonator or a Luciferian Satanism. Okay. There is also what I refer to as the contaminated type path, which is actually the Christian Satanic Bible by Jeremy Adam Capps. This book will teach you a lot about the Christian Bible, but it will also be it's also put in a way that is unique in its writing, because it's based off his way of practicing Satanism. Just like there are Christian witches today. That's been around for like 20, 25 years now. There's a lot of different paths out there, but does it mean that any one of these paths is better than the other? The answer is no. Some will sit there and claim all rights to everything, like the Temple of Satan or that of the Church of Satan, whereas others are hoarders of knowledge, much like the ONA or that of the Order of the Nine Angles or the Brotherhood of Satan. You know, I was talking with a friend of mine about a year or so ago, and he he was surprised how much I knew about the Brotherhood of Satan. Because number one, they don't reveal anything unless you're a member about their order, their traditions, and you can't even gain access to their library without being a member. Well, the fact that I told him where they originated from and where they have headquarters, what they're about, and about their library and everything, he looked at me and he's like, well, he typed back and he goes, how the hell did you know all that? And I said, because I pay attention and I do my homework. You know, people give away a lot of secrets and a lot of tells without even, getting into it. And this is one of the reasons I like the art of cognitive warfare so much, because not just because Alistair Notch, a very well-known spokesman for theistic Satanism, speaks on. He actually wrote a book called The Art of Cognitive Warfare. It reminds me a lot of Sun Tzu's The Art of War. You know, when you're close to an enemy, make him think that you're far away, and vice versa. The spy can do a lot of damage, put nation against nation. Get a lot of people killed or whatever. It's one. That's the nature of a spy. But Alistair Notch is a very down to earth practitioner, and I love his works. He's got like, what is it, 8, 9 books, and I think he's got another one on the way out. He's got a YouTube blog, and he's got another thing that he just started up called what is it? The Pantheon, I think it is, and it's very, very good. I mean, this guy's down to earth. He reminds me a lot of Frank White, even though I've known Alistair Notch a hell of a lot longer than I've known Frank White. Because I found Frank White about last year, where I've known about Alistair Notch for about a couple of years now. I was even friends with him on Facebook for a while before he got rid of his Facebook profile and created a page, kind of like a blog. And then, so you see a lot. He tells it from a theistic point of view, but he breaks it down into its most simplistic nature. Like Frank White, he keeps the magic, he keeps the drama and everything to a bare minimal. There literally is no drama within these two gentlemen. They tell you exactly the way it is from their perspective, what they've experienced, what they've learned. So this aspect is my reply to the question about the similarities and the commonalities. A lot of these practitioners that have their own structures, their own grimoires, their own authorship, stewardship, even have gotten their material from the same sources. This is why they're so similar. But it's about making it your own and showing the world this is the way it is. This is what I've gotten through my personal experiences, not what somebody else is doing. Yeah, you can study all the grimoires you want. You can study all the magical systems out there. all you want. But eventually, you're going to have to sit down and figure out what works for you and what doesn't. A Satanist will study and learn because it's about power, it's about knowledge, it's about wisdom, it's about the arts in communion with the deitas, the demons, the angels, the jinn, the spirits. And that's that's one of the reasons I enjoy Satanism so much, because it allows for individuality. It allows you to explore other systems without being banned from groups. It allows you to have your own train of thought so that you can speak your mind. You can learn how to defend yourself. You can learn how to do things like, for an example, hexcraft, cursing, perhaps even teaching somebody a lesson, utilizing herbalism, alchemy, calling upon demons. They're the different um, minions that are underneath them. A good book to realize in this would be The Demonic Bible by Turksu's Edge. Not only does he utilize and further Aleister Crowley's work within the Thelema system, but more in a demonic invocation aspect, through applications of invocation. But he actually puts forth a hierarchy, how to summon and who to summon. He gives multiple different names through the say, for example, the Djinn. Some of them are copied into different systems, like, say, for example, the eight sub princes of hell versus the I don't know, let's say, for example, the nine gatekeepers or the eight gatekeepers, for example. Some of them are kind of overlapped, but near the end of the book, he not only gives you a complete variety of demonic and angelic beings to summon, but he also gives you actual workings that can break this stuff down and that you can practice and invoke on your own. It kind of gives me, that insight where he furthered this from the sacred magic of Abramelin the Mage. Most grimoires, like, say, the Grand Grimoire, only gives you a limited aspect. Whereas, say, for an example, the Black Raven or the Grimoire of Armadale would, or even the Magus by Francis Barrett, would give you only a perspective, a small amount of beings that you can call on with their sigils and the names that you can utilize. Okay, so black magic and Satanism and demonic sorcery revolves around a lot of topics, not just divination or what is now known as divination, such as the utilization of a crystal ball, perhaps divination water, a black scrying mirror, like that in the corner. Okay, sigils, like you'll see on the walls. Okay. Yes, and yes, I do have more than one altar. So, I mean, I can utilize multiple altars if I need be. One for the goddesses and one for the gods, depending on the need. I've got invocations and evocations and calling on the spirits, serpents, wisdom, forbidden knowledge. And these are just some of the things that you, as a practitioner, as an acolyte or a neophyte, can actually begin to learn on your own, especially where you know where to look and where to get the materials. Azurgreen.net is a place that I shop at frequently. Luciferian Apotheca is another. Okay. But you can also go to other places such as Hex. which is Christian Day's store. He's got 3 branches that I know of. One in Salem, Mass, one down in New Orleans, Louisiana, and another one that he just opened up about a year or so ago up in, was it London, England. So I mean, he's becoming a big deal. Then you got Lori Bruno, a very known strega. She's a Italian witch. She's into gypsy craft, and I mean, she works a lot with angelic beings. So I mean, you can get into them. She's got a store down in Salem, Mass, as well. I've got a student, an apprentice, that is getting her stuff together. I mean, she's starting to sell stuff, which is awesome. I do praise that because it's something that she likes doing, which is awesome. And then you have one of my other apprentices who actually makes candles. So, I mean, that's cool. So, I mean, depending on what aspects of magic that you want to get into, will be your own and it will speak to you. Even if it's doing psychic readings, such as Ouija board summonings, see, Ouija board readings, rune readings, tarot card readings, palmistry, okay, even alchemy readings that could be done. You can learn how to do this through just about any path out there. You just have to apply yourself. And self motivation falls in line with the 9 satanic statements. Satan represents responsibility to the responsible. Plain and simple. Now, as for herbalism and alchemy, this is stuff that can work to your advantage through your career as a black magician, a sorcerer, a witch, a warlock, a wizard, a bruja. Okay. One of the things that I would recommend that you end up getting, especially if you're going to get into alchemy and herbalism, is get some of these. Okay. This is a grist bag. And I can tell you that grist bags are very, very helpful, especially if you're going to be getting into clientele perspectives when you get more advanced and know what you're doing. You can put anything from vials into them. You can put herbalism into it. A while back, I did a spell. It was a money spell. Both my son's mother and I ended up getting double the money, and I posted it on Facebook in a number of groups. And a friend of mine picked it up, did it for himself. He came back and posted his job and everything, what he normally gets gross wise. And then he actually posted what he actually got. And he thanked me for posting that. But it's not just utilized for money. It can be utilized in just about everything from cursing, hexing, to summoning spirits. Certain things combined will help you with your meditation. For an example, if you utilize a burn pot and you put in your burn pot, say for an example, red dragon's powder or red sand powder, sulfur, graveyard dirt. If you put in, for an example, sage, and you mix all this stuff together, you got a potent mixture that will knock you on your ass. And I'm not joking. If you're not sitting down or laying down, you will be on your ass. And I whipped this up by accident. But it helped me get into that state of mind of where I'm able to transcend different levels of existence, helping to shift from reality, from conscious to the unconscious, from reality to the astral. Herbalism can deal with a lot of different things, just like alchemy. Azazel taught men alchemy for a reason. He taught women how to paint their faces. This is in the book of Enoch, but it's also in chapter 6 of the book of Genesis. Okay? There's a lot that you can learn, there's a lot that you can do. It's not just one thing. But when you start getting serious and you start making yourself, dedicating yourself to a specific path, then you can get into what is called the applications of that path. Getting into the workings, the root workings, the history, the mythology aspects of the deities. Now you look at Sumner Dreadwood and what he's putting out in books. I recently had the opportunity to utilize some of the rituals from his books, and they are quite potent, quite powerful. When I started that root working, I got an instant, and I mean instant, hit. I felt the presence. I summoned the being through sigil and by name. I utilized the words, the magical words spoken, and it was quite powerful, potent. The first time I utilized it, I ended up seeing a bluish white light, which means angelic, celestial. It was some being from a celestial plane. Not sure who it was, but what I was doing, and I'm not going to get into it, was answered. A being replied and took it from there. You look at what Curtis Joseph, E.A. Coetting, Asenath Mason, S. Connolly Reeser, Orly Stewart, Frank White, Joseph Nunn. You look at what all these practitioners are doing and what they're putting out. You want to know why they are feared? It is because they're not submitting to the mundane point of views. They're going out there, they're doing the work, and they're putting it forth for you. They're simplifying it for you. I have a book out that's called Satanism, the philosophy, that I have in PDF format that I send to people who want it. I send it out for free because it's my first book. It's 14 pages long in PDF format because it's pressed. It was originally about 24, I want to say 24 to 30 pages long. It's more like a booklet, but still, it's there. And I have been trying to get it published, but haven't found anybody who's willing to do it. I tried going through Lulu Publishing, but I couldn't figure out. Well, let's just say I'm not technology advanced as everybody else. It's like you put me in the 15th century, I know what I'm doing. You put me here in this world with all this technology, I'm lucky if I even get onto my YouTube channel. But I guess that's the difference from how you're brought up, how you grow up, and what interests you as an individual. So you can see what I mean by you got those who are actually trying to show you a better path, those who are trying to lead you down a path, and those who are actually doing the work and putting it out there and simplifying it to the point where you as the individual will get the greatest, most bountiful, and plenteous results out of it, the ritual workings. I've had a lot of questions come at me since I came online, back in 2013. I've had a lot of followers. But as I said, Satanism is not for the faint of heart. You will be accused, you will be attacked, you will be ridiculed. People will attack you, they will hate you, they will fear you, but you also have those who will follow you, those who will follow your work, especially when you become completely, how should I say this, when you create the state of how should what's the word I want to say here? After you've made the deals, you made the pacts, you become initiated, you become the adept, you become the student, the higher learning. You get in, start applying it to your life. You start teaching, making the connections. Then you can make the confirmation aspects. Okay, the confirmation aspect is where you, as the adept, will be able to stand on your own. You'll be able to speak with authority. But most importantly, you will be able to stay humble. You will be able to admit that you're not somebody who knows everything. But at the same time, you'll be able to lead others down a path that fits for them. You'll be able to share things from your own studies, references, authors, kind of like what I've given in this video and all my other videos, things that I've spoken on for you to go out and look up. Some authors will simply, like S. Connolly, will share links with you. Okay. Um, when you become friends with publishers, such as Severed Heads Publishing, for an example, who publishes a lot of the Order of the Nine Angles works, they they will simply share a link to you so that you can go under, look at all the materials, and decide what you want to buy. All right. But at the same time, you've got those who are willing to share with you what they know. Will simply say, okay, you want to go down the path of the Luciferian. There are three Luciferians that I would recommend that you look into: Michael W. Ford, Frank White, and Joseph Nunn. You want to get into traditional Satanism, go with Myrmidon Pontifex Maximus, or that of Vocalocus Aureax, maybe Setanito, even. All three of their work, these people's works, are incredible, especially within traditional Satanism. You want to get into the Order of the Nine Angles, which is also traditional Satanism works. You want to get into, say, for an example, spiritual aspects. The same applies with theistic Satanists. So I mean, there's actually a group out there called the Black Pirate right now that has a 3-book set: the the workings of the Nine Kings, the Unholy Bible, and what's the third one there? Something about hymns. You can get it off eBay. Okay. You want to know about black magic and how to better yourself as a sorcerer. Go with How to Become a Living God. Perhaps look into um, the the Serpent of the Grails, run by Frank White. How to Become a Living God franchise by E.A. Koenig. Get into Asenath Mason's work on the draconian aspects of Satanism and sorceries. All these great authors are out there, these great teachers. They spend a lot of time and dedication to their paths. Just like I started when I was 11, and I've been doing it for 28 years. But I've come in contact with so many great authors, so many great practitioners that have shared their secrets with me, who have taught me their ways. And I've studied many different paths, just like E.A. Koenig has. And I've seen the similarities, I've seen the commonalities, but I've also been met with fear. I've been met with hate and discontent. I've had people block me because I didn't abide by their way of thinking. Okay? This does not bother me because when you start going down a path, you're going to find links to other type of paths. For an example, when you get into Palo Mayombe, there are links to Santeria. There are commonalities with Umbanda and Quimbanda, Voodoo and Hoodooism. There's stretches through the French Niles, the English Channels, all the way over into Africa, along the banks of the Nile, where the original settlers, the Yoruba people, first appeared. Okay, witchcraft normally comes from two generations, two distinct locations: European and Egyptian. Look at Aleister Crowley's work, Thoth, the magician. There's a reason why he was known as the Beast 666, the wickedest man alive. H.P. Lovecraft utilized the Necronomicon based from the Babylonian Mad Arab, where Simon picked it up and expanded it. Then Donald Tyson. Okay, all of these works are very, very good. Now, personally, it comes down to your reference and what speaks to you. For me, when it comes to the Necronomicon series, I have to go with Simon because I've experimented with all of them, and I can tell you that Simon's is the best. His work is, for the most part, in depth. It is real and it is to the point. It's powerful, just like E.A. Quetting's works, just like Asenath Mason, Curtis Joseph, Frank White. I've experimented with their works. I recently posted on Facebook that I got some new works in. I now have everything except for one book from the Cabal, okay, which my brother is going to begin for me, okay. But I've also finally got my hands on Curtis Joseph's book, The Black Magic of Orion. And I actually delved into that, and this book is exciting for me. It is very potent stuff. And I've actually started delving into the history and the mythologies and everything myself while I'm reading this book. You're probably listening to my son in the background along with his mom. He's 16 months old and he's a handful, but he's fun to be around. So it's all cool. But anyways, yeah, get into these authors, get into the different works, get into the different traditions and the thought forms, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Satanism is a path of the individual. It is not that of herd conformity. You've heard the term, it is better to die on your feet with honor than as on your knees like a slave or a sheep. Okay? The same thing applies. We question everything. We go out and we learn for ourselves. We don't sit there and take things at face value. Okay? We deal with facts, evidence, but we also know that these beings are real, that they need to be respected and honored. When you worship them, when you call upon them, always give something back, an offering. Personally, blood is the best, in my opinion, because it recharges them for the energies that they spend coming across all the dimensions and everything, and the planes of existence, the realities, across the cosmos, the multiverse, even, to see you, the individual, to work with you. They want to make your life better. But I do agree with Curtis Joseph, though, in the Black Book of the Black Magic of Orion, through the introduction, is that when you delve into the Christian works, it doesn't really explain a lot of things, which is why he personally went into the old gods and started working with them and doing the research and delving into them. What I find interesting is he's not the only one who's done that. I've done it. I've noticed all these other practitioners that I've spoken of have done the exact same thing. S. Ben Cayenne is another great practitioner. He deals a lot with the jinn, but he's spoken on a lot of different things, and he's got quite a few books out as well. Now, I have the honor of being friends with him. I've spoken with the guy. He, I told him, I said, I'm working on this. Do you know anything that can go along with this? And he said, try this. He said, get into this thing. Get into the Quran, get into this way of thinking, check into this stuff. And it's just like, I'm like, okay. So I start delving into it, and it's like, holy freaking shit. Talk about mind blowing. So, yeah, I mean, these guys, we learn from each other. We share what we know. And tomorrow, if not Thursday, I will do part 4 of this video series, and I will literally start getting into the actual practices from my point of view and what I've experienced while doing them, and I'll actually break it down for you so that you can go out, get the material, and try it for yourselves. So I answered a couple of questions while doing this, and I've also shared a few things. So I hope this has been intellectual. I hope it's been enlightening. I hope that you go out and check out the authors and their books. Their reference, the references that I've given to you, and really get into these works and study for yourself. Don't be what Stephanie Connolly commonly refers to as the armchair magician, but which I get a kick out of just by saying that. But really get into the works. Don't be afraid to question. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to go into other cultures, other belief structures, and experience them. Okay? Don't limit yourself to one style, tradition, or form. Instead, go out and master them all. The more you learn, the more you study, the more you'll understand. All right? So I hope this has been intellectual. Hope it's been enlightening. And until next time, this Dark Sorcerer is out. You can always hit me up. Ask questions. I'll always reply. With that said, enjoy. Have a good night, good day, wherever you are in the world.